Hello, everybody. Well, today I am joined by a special guest, a person who is very familiar with Neville's teachings. Her name is Areena, and she has recently started a YouTube channel. I'll link below to her new YouTube channel. And just speaking to her, I spoke to her recently. I thought a lot of her experiences were worth sharing because she really has a beat on kind of um, the good in Neville's teachings and also a lot of the flaws in the community that we see. So Areena, welcome to I was gonna say the show, but I guess it's not really a show. It's more just my YouTube channel. But yeah, I'm happy to have you on.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Thank you so much that I always wanted to talk about this, and it's so glad that you have given me the opportunity to talk about it. And I really like your videos, and that's why I think I really connect with you as well. But yeah, just to like give a background of my encounter with Neville. It was back in 2020, and just like everybody else, I had had a breakup and I didn't know what to do. It was my first relationship. I was like 20, 21 years old, and that's when I learned about Rhonda and The Secret, and it didn't really resonate with me a lot because it has this condition of like being in high vibration all the time, and that was so bad for me because I ended up having my first ever panic attack. But so I kind of like got like distanced myself from it. But then I saw Sammy Ingram's video on YouTube, and she was talking about something different. I mean, now that I look back, it's not something different, but it's the same thing. But she called it law of
It
attraction.
seemed right. It seemed very different, right, when you first see it.
Yes, and then there was Neville Goddard and everything. I tried reading Feeling is the Secret, but to be honest, the language used in that book was very difficult for me to understand. I think that's the experience of most people, at least like the younger generation. They don't want to read, they just want to watch YouTube videos.
Right.
So that as well, I just watched the YouTube videos, and then she was like, you just have to uh assume that it's true, right? Just ignore, circumstances don't matter. And I think that was quite a relief for me to hear that circumstances don't matter, because my relationship with him was very bad. With my ex was very bad. So I it was kind of relief. It was kind of a relief to know that circumstances don't matter. And then at first it didn't really make sense to me that how is this possible, the ideas of free will and everything. But then I was like, you know what, I'll just go ahead with it. And to be honest, I didn't really get anything out of it. Like there was no manifestation as such, I think. But what happened was like I was obsessed with it. Like I was consuming a lot of content related to manifestation and law of assumption. And there were new techniques in the market every day. And I was just hopping from one technique to another. And I was consuming LOA content everywhere, be it Tumblr, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere. And there was like, and then I came across the Neville Goddard community on subreddit. I mean, the subreddit. And I used to read posts about it every day. I used to search the top posts and the best posts, everything, until I saw this, until I had this like breakdown, kind of like a breakdown. I had this so when I graduated, just to give a little backstory, when I graduated from college, I had no job. My friends had a job. I didn't have a job because I was just living my life, and I heavily relied on law of assumption. So I never did anything, like I never applied anywhere or whatever. But then the reality hit me hard that fuck, I have no job.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm just doing what? Like doing affirmations in my room, doing nothing about it. And that's when I had a huge breakdown. And then I went to the subreddit to find any solutions to it. And I scrolled too far, and I came across this person who was kind of non-dual. I mean, he claimed to be a non-dual person, and he was in his 50s, and he said that I have achieved all of my desires. And he was talking something about post promise Neville. I have honestly no idea about what that is, but it was basically, I think, when Neville had been awakened. I think that is what it is.
Yeah, right. That's right. His whole promised experience, yeah, is he had a spiritual revelation, he claimed, in the late 50s, which dramatically changed his trajectory of his teachings,
Yeah.
and is completely in my opinion, misinterpreted by the community. And also, I think, frankly, I've spoken about this before, detracts massively from his practical teachings. I think he had a very, very subjective experience. But anyway, I don't mean to cut you off here. I mean, everything you're saying is so fascinating because I think your story thus far, and we're going to keep on going, but like, this is the stuff you don't hear about often unless you look for it, or unless you're like a coach like I am and you talk to people and you hear these kind of stories all the time. Why I'm first of all so glad you're making a YouTube channel where you talk about some of this stuff as you're sharing your experiences, and people need to hear they're not alone, because I can tell you there are literally thousands of people who have gone down the same path that you have gone down. What you described is something that I hear all the time, something that Marvin hears all the time. My other friends in the community, like Maggie and Cecilia, we hear this stuff. Who are ex-moderators of the subreddit. We hear this all the time, and this is the truth that these marketers, which is what Sammy is, and Sammy's brilliant in many ways. I've defended her a lot, but I also have to criticize her a lot. Um, they portray this stuff as being easy and simple, and you should just be able to assume, and that's it. And like you said, here you are after college. I'm just going to assume my way to a job or something, and nothing happens. And there's this moment of like, oh my god, what have I done? Basically, right?
Yes, exactly that. I'm like, what have I done? My friends have a job, and I'm just here with no job, with no future plans or anything. But yeah, so this person in his post, I can see it now because he had completely manipulated his story, like the words of Neville. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused and lost. He posted that he was talking mainly about everyone is you pushed out. And I know at some point when you are in the LOA community, you think about free will, you think about how is somebody a reflection of you, if they're complete reflection of you, if the world is a complete reflection of you. But we sort of just ignore those questions because we are fixated on our desires, right?
Right. Most people just want their damn SP. They just want their SP or their money or whatever. Right. It's
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. So I mean, I have been a part of that as well, so I know that best. I used to keep ignoring these questions, but this person, I remember he said something which was very triggering, which can be a lot triggering for a lot of people. And he was like, Neville said that people are just mechanized dolls. So you can basically order them to do anything in your head, which is very absurd, right? And when I read about what he meant by mechanized dolls, that he basically meant that most of us are just uh, doing what our subconscious beliefs are. Like we're just
Right.
conforming to our subconscious beliefs unknowingly, but he had completely manipulated it. And that is what was so solipsistic about it. And that was when I was like, shit, I was sitting in my room and I was like, what does it mean? Like, does it mean like I am not real? Does it mean that other people are not real? And it was like completely solipsistic. I was questioning everything, and I was questioning if the world is real, if I exist, or whatever, like all of those questions. And there was and starting from that day till like for the next 2 years or so, I used to feel heavily depersonalized and I used to feel heavily anxious. And there was like a normal thing for me back then, but it was not happening all the time. It was coming in waves. And that is when I decided to distance myself from law of assumption. But I was still a part of the subreddit. And I saw that at one point it got so heavy for me. I did not know what to do. So I did request on the subreddit to talk about it, but I think the subreddit didn't take it. So I went to other posts to see if other people are feeling this as well. And I saw that there are many people who had questioned if what is everyone is you pushed out. It does it mean that my husband is not real? Does it mean that my children are not real? I feel quite lonely. And there were a lot of things like that on solipsism and all those questions, but nobody answered it. And I even spoke to the author of that post who talked about
Mm-hmm.
who was non-dual or whatever. But and he himself said that yeah, we are the only people to exist. That didn't help me at all. But then I just completely distanced myself from law of attraction and law of assumption. I don't consume a lot of law of attraction,
Mm-hmm.
content. I just consume yours because I felt like you and I resonate with it with on a lot of things. But I have left the subreddit. I don't follow Sammy Ingram. I don't follow other YouTubers as well. But
Right.
yeah, but I think it's like a huge issue, and I think a lot of people don't talk about it. A lot of people don't talk about spiritual bypassing, and it's gonna affect you in the long term. I still have, problems because of those things, because of how much suppression and how much I suppressed the things and how much self blame I took, because I was like, oh, so he's reflecting me. That means that I have this belief. I am doing something wrong. If I don't have my SP, I am doing something wrong, and that was just a never ending vicious cycle in my opinion.
Never ending is exactly the word. I mean, if you get into that mindset and think about it that way, it's it's a never ending blame game on yourself, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's how I came across non-dual subreddit, non-duality subreddit as well. And I remember being so, I don't know what's the exact word, but so paranoid that I thought that the wars that are happening in the world are happening because of me, because I'm aware of it. So I was
Right.
taking blame for all of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I mean, if you follow this philosophy to that point, this kind of bastardized, Neville or even non-dual philosophy, whatever you want to call it, this Reddit philosophy of these great teachings, that's where you end up. Oh, I'm causing all the famine and suffering in the world. That's me. That's me pushed out. And
Mhm.
again, I mean, I'm not saying that's a theory. If you want to believe it, you can. But I did a video last week after our conversation, and I've done videos before. Why would you want that? Like the implications of these, I can never say the word solid. You could say a solipsistic. Say it for me.
Solip-
Solipsistic.
Solipsism, yeah.
Solipsism. I can never pronounce it. But why would you want to have this viewpoint? It's not forgiving of you at all. It's saying, Buddha said all life is suffering. So, this interpretation of a line like that would be like, okay, I have created all the suffering in the world. While I think a more sane spiritual interpretation, I think close to what Buddha meant and what so many of these great spiritual teachers meant, is that we are the cause of our own suffering in how we interpret things. And if we interpret things more lovingly, more wholly, more, just integrate them in a more holistic manner, we become more forgiving of ourselves and in turn of everybody else, right? And we realize that we all have flaws and that at the same time we're all perfect, and we can work together to work through our flaws in a loving, compassionate way instead of in this selfish, me-centered way. But the interpretation on communities like Reddit, I mean, this is Areena. This is again. That's why I say to everybody, stay the fuck off of Reddit. Having been a moderator on there, um, and just it's. I think most Reddit communities, especially when they get large, get to be like this, and it's basically, to be blunt, the blind leading the blind. You're much
Mhm.
better off going to a few authorities. I mean, like actually, Neville at the beginning of Feeling is the Secret, for instance, actually says the preface or whatever is like, you're better off instead of reading basically 1,000 books, reading one or two or three books to tell you what actually is. And like that was Neville's outlook on this. And I just feel like I love looking at different teachings, different books, different teachers, but if it sounds like bullshit, it's probably bullshit or it's probably not resonating with you. And it's much better to look at books that are 60, 70 years old, or teachings that are hundreds or thousands of years old that have stood the test of time than listening to random anonymous people on Reddit or these YouTubers who are claiming all this crazy shit, and yet their lives don't seem any different than ours. Oh, I can manifest anything I want. It's like, then why are you making, why do you look unhealthy and unhealthy fat, and like you're doing this video like in your basement? You know what I'm saying? It's bullshit. It's blatant spiritual bypassing. And what's crazy is people don't talk about it. And I want to add, one reason on the Neville subreddit they don't talk about it is because the moderators are basically, a lot of the time, a lot of them mean well. I like some of the moderators, or some of the moderators in the past, some of the people who still do moderate, but they are dogmatists. So anything controversial, like, am I creating the wars in the world type stuff, they'll take down. they'll delete it. I've started posting again there recently, I think, as you know, the last 2 months, to get people off there and to give more of an even keeled analysis on some of these SP ideas. And I had a post taken down the other day from the main subreddit because I dared link the letting go process of David Hawkins with Neville Goddard. I dared do that. And, it was the top post for, half a day. And, people were commenting on it. Everyone was being civil. And then it was just taken down. No explanation given. That's the kind of shit that happens all the time. I know. I used to moderate. I know. And I thought it was great when a couple months ago they finally said, this is a shit show, we're going to leave it unmoderated so everything's up, so then you just get to see everything. But then people, because of ego, were like, no, we can't do that, we want to be moderators again. It's a terrible place, and it's a pathetic place to learn about Neville, quite frankly. So yeah.
Yeah, I think my advice to people would be to not be part of any LOA community. It's just
Yes.
very traumatizing, honestly.
Yes, I completely agree with that. I think it's fine to have a small circle of friends. Marv and I, for instance, have like a small mastermind group of people following the golden rule. But like, if in, group coaching, I've paid big money to be in small groups with other LOA practitioners who are serious, where everyone's paying big money to be in the group and is serious. That can be beneficial. But a general community, a low cost, let alone free community, it's going to be people saying crazy shit and the blind leading the blind.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing, actually, I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, I think that would be my advice to a lot of people, and would be to not consume LOA, because I feel like LOA content is like a quick fix. You listen to it and you feel better that, oh, I will get my desire. But that actually rarely ever happens, And I think if you have those abandonment issues as like your core wound, it's going to keep happening until you face it. And I think that's my experience so far, that no matter how much self concept work I did, whatever, but until I actually confronted my fear of abandonment, I didn't go anywhere. And I kept actually manifesting more of that abandonment in my life, maybe in the form of self sabotage or, whatever. And yeah.
Yeah, great point. Great point, for sure. Yeah, I mean, usually, I like to say that old saying. It's something like, we have to go through the garbage dump to get to the gold, and I don't think Neville was opposed to that, but I think the community that's been spawned from his teachings, or bastardized from his teachings in the last 10 years, is completely unwilling to do that. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's great talking to you. I hope to have you on the channel again in the future. If you're watching this, guys, check out Areena's new YouTube channel, and feel free to ask her questions, via YouTube. Is there anywhere else to reach you, or is YouTube the best place?
I'm only on YouTube right now, but yeah, I think I
Great.
have an email also in my channel. So if anybody wants to.
Perfect. Great. Awesome. Well, Areena, thank you for spending some time with us. And yeah, it's great to have you in the space. And thanks for talking today.
Thank you so much, Tim. And yep, you do a great job. Please continue doing it.
I will. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Bye bye.